Hey, welcome back. We are ACI Course 10, Class 7 on September 21st, 2025. Happy New Year to those who celebrate that. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you, gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that strong intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite, And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kalnirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do, sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So remember that Master Shantideva recommends that we take joy once we've committed ourselves to attaining those 2 forms of bodhicitta in order to firm and foster the imprints. And then we repeatedly take joy to firm and foster those imprints. So the taking joy isn't meant to be just after doing our ceremony where we receive our vows or receive our wish to grow into receiving the vows. And so we had those 4 lines about uplifting our hearts that we can use repeatedly. And then he spoke to the 5 different ways that the wish has the power to remove suffering. And then your quiz said, well, how does it really do that? And the punchline we know is that I use my effort to grow my wish into the actual experience, and then use that wisdom to change my own self into a being that can help others do the same thing, so that we can become a valid authority. And really, without that, we can't actually do much. It's a little discouraging. It sounds like, don't bother trying until you're totally enlightened. But we also know in the punchline that we need to try to help in order to grow the goodness that ripens as moving along the path to becoming one who actually can help. So why can't we already know exactly what another being needs to give up and take up in order to stop their suffering? And we don't know that because we're not omniscient. And why are we not omniscient? Because we have those obstacles from all the perceiving and believing things have their identities and qualities in them, and that I have my identity and quality in me. And that misunderstanding that we think is a correct understanding is the source of all of our behavior choices that then end up being imprints in our mind that brings their results, which are obvious suffering, the suffering of change, or pervasive suffering. So until we clean out those mental afflictions, misunderstandings, how do I say it? The choice of behavior as a result of our experience, all of which is misunderstood, leads to a misunderstood choice of reaction to the experience, not understanding that it's misunderstood. And until we understand that we're misunderstanding, we can't really change ourselves, right? We can be inspired by an authority figure that we admire and try to do what they say. But really, until our own wisdom grows enough, we'll hit a level at which it's like, I know what the teacher says, but not in this instance. Roxana and I were having a discussion today, and it's like we came up to the, I know it's my karma, but, right? To justify the old reaction, right? And it's like, no, you can't fall back on the it's my karma, but we have to push. It's my karma, and so I choose something different. So these states of mind that we have in reaction to our experiences, through which we choose how to act towards those experiences, are states of mind that upset our peace of mind. They are called nyomon, kleshas, mental afflictions. Not really a word that the general public relates to, right? If you talk to your neighbor, right, a non-dharma neighbor, and they're saying they're upset about something, and you go, wow, you're really having a mental affliction, they'll probably look like you're speaking some foreign language, right? You would ordinarily say, wow, you're really upset, aren't you? And we just get more specific about that being upset, and we call them mental afflictions, like we're so smart. But it's the same idea. Any state in which we are rocked from our peace of mind is a mental affliction, which kind of implies that if we're not having a mental affliction, we would have peace of mind. That's worth exploring itself. Wait, I'm making us bigger here. So this class is about the mental afflictions that block our peace of mind, so that we can recognize through them the big one, the main one, that causes all the rest of them, so that we can start winning the battle against them. So nyomong is the Tibetan word for mental afflictions. Klesha is the Sanskrit, and the literal translation, Geshe-la says, it's like to bother, to distress. In slang, we say to bug somebody. Stop bugging me, right? Like the fly that keeps coming back, that kind of bug. Stop bugging me. Distress, even harass, like nyomon, klesha. So if we call it mental affliction, and I asked you, did you have a mental affliction today? And and maybe we'd say, no, I had a pretty mellow day. We went driving. And but if I said, did you have any episode of feeling bothered by something? Well, it's like, yeah, my knees hurt when I got out of bed. And technically, that minor little ick, without adding, and I know where it comes from, is a nyomo, right? It's a mental affliction that disturbed my peace of mind. Our peace of mind is being happy. It doesn't mean just being like neutral. Peace of mind. It's pleasurable. Pleasurable, no upset. If all our mental afflictions are gone forever, that's nirvana, as we've studied. Nirvana is this peace of mind state. So if our mental afflictions are the obstacles to nirvana, then in order to experience ourselves in nirvana, which really gives the wrong idea, experience our mind as nirvana, nirvana-sized, says Master Kamalashila, we need to recognize those states of mind that are obstacles to it, that block it. Those states of mind that bother us, that harass us, that bug us, that are not nirvana. And in order to do what we need to do to overcome those, we need to be able to recognize them. And it seems like that shouldn't be so hard to recognize when I'm, mentally upset. But it's one thing to say, oh man, I'm pissed off. And it's another to be able to say, that means I'm having anger because I'm afraid, because I'm comparing myself to this other person and I find them better than me. And that makes me upset. And then, right, to really identify what the actual mental affliction is underneath the I'm pissed off, right? That's the big one, ignorant disliking. But maybe underneath there's something much more specific. And if we work at the specific one, all the ones that are tagged to it, like, fall away more easily. If we can get to that precise one. So Master Shantideva, he really does use that violent analogy of waging war, right? Having a battle against our mental afflictions. And by the end of class, we'll see why he says that. And I don't know, a lot of us resist the violent aspect of the analogy of war. Yet, when we recognize how powerful are our habitual reactions to both unpleasant and pleasant situations, we see how hard it is to have that little window of opportunity between the experience, the feeling in response to the experience, and our action that happens next. And if we can have this awareness of being able to identify that step between experience and feeling, then we can better choose our response to it than react to it. And to get to that level of action really does take this forcefulness against our habitual patterns. That to be like, no, I'm all right, I'm gonna be gentle with myself, I'm gonna give myself plenty of time. Those mental affliction demons, like, will just take advantage of us. So Master Shantideva wants us to get wrathful. Bodhisattvas are called spiritual warriors on purpose. Right? It takes that kind of force. Force towards others? No. Force towards our own misunderstanding, right? Our own, right? Angel devil. Force with that devil to be working with them. So if we're going to go to battle, it's kind of necessary that we can recognize our enemy, or else we'll waste our time fighting with everybody, or we'll go into battle and they'll get us before we get them. So you do your strategy first, figure out what they're like, and then we can recognize them when where they are, and we can better know how to do battle with them. Again, if we don't recognize that feeling as anger, we don't know how to do battle with a feeling that we've identified wrongly, right? The tact that we're using to try to override fear is a different tact than when we override the actual anger, that the fear that is the reaction to the fear. So when we recognize our enemy, we also know what strategy to use, right? I suspect, militaries are the same way. If you have an enemy who's got a powerful ground army, you're probably going to use a ground army against them rather than the Navy, right? Can't very well get to them from the Navy. So same way with our mental afflictions. So Master Shantideva is going to give us a strategy. But before we get there, we need to do our Gelukpa definition and the meanings of how to recognition of the enemies. Not all 84,000 of them, thank goodness. But there are a basic number that we can learn, and all the rest are ramifications of them. So here's our definition of a mental affliction. The definition of the enemy is Semgyu Mashiwar Jepe Semjung. Semgyu Mashiwar Jepe Semjung. Semjung means a mental function, so a thought. Semgyu is the word for the mind stream. Mashiwar, Semgyu Mashiwar means no peace mind stream. So a mind stream that is in no peace versus peace. Semgyu Mashiwar Jepe, the thought that makes our mind stream no peace, a no peace mind stream versus a peace mind stream, right? So a mind stream not nirvana versus a mind stream nirvana. A mental function or thought, says Geshe Michael, which ruins our peace of mind. So he says, if you want to know if you're an arhat or not, just check to see if you have any thoughts which ruin your peace of mind. And it's like, well, that's weird. I don't even think I'd recognize a peace of mind if it was there. I don't know that I've ever had peace of mind. What is it really? Right? Something to meditate on. Maybe it's not so far away as we think. Maybe we have some idea of what nirvana is, and it seems completely unattainable when it's maybe not so far away. Although maybe it is. Once we have no more thoughts that ruin our peace of mind, it means we have peace of mind all the time. And that's what it is to be in nirvana. Even if you still are living in your old house with your same family and your same job. Hey, you can have nirvana with leftover. And your state of mind is never rocked from its peacefulness, meaning yelling boss, okay, right? Sick with a fever, okay, but not meaning, oh, everything's neutral. It doesn't matter. That's not peace of mind. It's actually a state of happiness, peace of mind. Due to the individual analysis, remember that? We experienced emptiness directly, and then we used what we then now know to burn off the negativities, plant kindness until there's no more mental affliction seeds and no more active mental afflictions. So no more possible mental afflictions. Another name for nirvana is shiwar. Peace. Being peace. All mental afflictions removed forever. It's worth imagining, trying to imagine. It's hard to comprehend. It's hard to imagine. So Geshe-la says, pick your favorite mental affliction, meaning our most common one, and imagine being without it, even in a situation where it would ordinarily arrive. Just pretend. You don't even have to be in meditation. Just sit with a cup of tea and imagine going through, right, a circumstance where you would get fearful, anger, jealous, whatever it is. And you can, right, walk yourself through that whole experience with like such understanding that that feeling doesn't even, right, it's not even a stain left. It's worth doing. So mental afflictions hurt us because they make us unhappy. They ruin your day, says Master Shantideva. And that's their function. Like for as long as we have a mental affliction, our state of peace is ruined, which means like our whole day is ruined by that mental affliction. It doesn't matter, says Geshe Michael, whether that mental affliction lasts 2 seconds, 2 hours, 2 lifetimes. Okay? We're not in peace of mind. There's no virtuous, unhappy state of mind, says Abhidharma Kosha, not the, Abhidharma Kosha, except for what? Regret. Regret is an unhappy state of mind that is virtuous. That healthy regret of an educated Buddhist. Any other unhappy state of mind is actually a non-virtue because it's an obstacle to our enlightenment. And so it's a negative karma. And the debate would be, no, that unhappy state of mind is a result ripening. It's not a karma, it's the result of a karma. A karma means what's being planted and carried through. The unhappy state of mind is ripened. But the thing is, the unhappy state of mind is itself unhappy, right? It itself upsets us a little bit. And that plants the new seed. So although the unhappy state of mind itself as the ripening is not a bad karma, right? The next instant of our reaction to it is a negative karma. that perpetuates the unhappy state of mind, not the one at the moment necessarily, but future unhappy states of mind. On the other hand, to be upset about the mental affliction, says Gyaltsab Je, is a virtue, right? So the reaction to the mental affliction in which we're upset plants a new seed that's negative. But when we have this healthy understanding, mental affliction, doggone it anyway, right? That's a virtue. So we can have this mental affliction, get it burnt off to some extent, replanting some level of understanding of wisdom, in which case, is our mental affliction a bad ripening or not? If we've been able to use it to clean out a negative and plant the virtue of regret, oh my gosh, maybe my mental afflictions aren't such terrible enemies after all. But if I give them that little peek of a window opening, right, their buddies are going to flood in, says Master Shantideva. We can't make friends with our mental afflictions, not for an instant. But we can definitely make friends with our regret about the mental affliction, which takes a level of mindfulness to have regret to the mental affliction instead of the usual upset from the mental affliction, right? Which is habitual because mental afflictions are mental afflictions, right? They're unpleasant. Okay. So someone says, well, wait a minute. Anger, anger and attachment. I forget how the argument goes. Anger and attachment are mental afflictions. And so we don't want to have anger and attachment, even towards our mental affliction and our path. So that doesn't seem right, Master Shantideva. This is Gyaltsab Je talking to somebody, right? And they're hashing it out. It's like, if this anger against my mental afflictions and attachment to reaching nirvana are themselves mental afflictions, I should just let go and not, right? How does the path work if you don't have this forcefulness against your mental affliction and your attachment to wanting to reach nirvana and Buddhahood? And the answer, long story around the circle, says yes, we should have attachment to our path to full enlightenment. And we should have aversion, strong aversion, to every moment of obstacles to that path, even to the point of hatred, says Master Shantideva. Because those mental afflictions towards the path, when we reach our realizations along the path, the thing that our attachment and anger was directed to are gone. And so that attachment and aversion disappear themselves. It's not like if we cultivate those two mental afflictions in order to reach our realizations, we then have to turn around and get rid of those attachments to our realizations. They're just gone once we have the realizations. And it's one of those we need to cook through with a good logical argument for ourselves to see how that quite works in order to convince ourselves to be that determined, that tough with ourselves and our mental afflictions. All right, I think I got that right. So, who are the enemies? There are 6 main mental afflictions. And of the 6, one of them themselves has 5 different versions of it. So they often will say that there are 10 top mental afflictions. And then there are secondary ones, top secondary ones, that we end up having 20 main mental afflictions, although they're not all main. They're 10 and they're secondary, but still 20 to work with, and those come later sometime. So these top 6 I have here: Duchak, Kongtro, Nagyo, Marikpa, Tetsom, Dawa, and which is the one that has 5. Oh, sorry, that's all of them. That's 6. Dawa, Tetsom, Marikpa, Nagyo, Kongtro, Duchak. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So none of these are new to us, except maybe Dawa. Duchak is commonly translated as desire, right? Attachment. And again, if I were to ask myself, did I have desire or attachment today? And it's like, no, right? Because that means craving something, right? Oh man, that chocolate craving that we used to get, I don't get it anymore, but you know, ladies, menstrual cycle, chocolate craving, that kind of thing. Did I have that today? No. You know, did I have attachment? No. Did I have misunderstanding, liking things? Absolutely. Yeah. Did I have misunderstanding, not liking things? Absolutely. Right? It's happening so ubiquitously, it's hard to even notice. So it's hard to remind ourselves this pleasure is a result of past kindness, and so I will be grateful, happy to receive it, and try to share it, right? Or share something else somewhere else. I will try to continue to perpetuate the goodness coming to me. So duchak, more specifically translated, means to like things with some aspect of wanting something and not wanting to lose it. Liking things ignorantly has this aspect of wanting something and not wanting to lose it. And it's like, so you can like something and not want it. Seems like it, right? But we can still like something ignorantly and not want it for the wrong reason. So it's not just talking about the liking something and then wanting to get it and keep it, not lose it. It's about the thing we're liking and the pleasure that makes us like it. We believe that that pleasure comes from the thing, which is why we want it and don't want to lose it. Right? So the ignorant piece, the misunderstanding, is The misunderstanding that the identity is not in it. But more importantly is the misunderstanding that the pleasure I get from it is not actually from it. And that's the mistaken view, thinking that the pleasure I get does come from it, that makes me willing to be somehow gross or subtly unkind to keep that thing that's the source of my pleasure. Which in doing so, of course, if I knew it, I would know that I made the cause for something unpleasant in the future. And is it worth getting something unpleasant in the future in order to get a little pleasure now? You know, maybe we would say, yeah, actually, it is. Until you get the unpleasure, the displeasure in the future. And then you'll go, what was I thinking? No? If we're even wise enough to remember that we made that conscious choice. So we'll finally stop doing it. Stop letting ourselves do it. So for duchok to be duchok, you have this ignorant liking that has this aspect of I want the thing and I don't want to lose it. And we misunderstand the object's nature. We believe its identity and the pleasure that comes from it is in it. And because of that second factor, we're willing to do this non-virtue to get it or keep it. Again, what does non-virtue mean? Anything that when we get the result will be a result we don't like. So it's not like, are you willing to kill somebody to protect your pen? No, of course not. But am I willing to not share the pen because it's my favorite pen and I'm afraid they won't take good care of it? You know, and it's like, well, what's wrong with that? That's healthy behavior to take care of your stuff. And it's like, yeah, until that grows and you need help from somebody. And what we meet is, no, I'm not going to share that with you because you're going to use it up or you're going to, you know, not take good care of it. Or like, why would I share that with you? You know, and it's like, is that going to be pleasant? Probably not in the moment. And that's what makes the not sharing the pen a non-virtue. Okay. We know that, but I need to hear it again and again and again for it to sink in deeper and deeper. So we're not trying to reach this equanimity where we consider every experience and every feeling all the same. Right? We're not meant to become robots or vegetables. We're meant to stop the misunderstanding that perpetuates the ignorant liking, disliking, and all the rest that we're going to talk about. Buddhas like things and dislike things. Even as Buddhas, we will like things and dislike things. We will like sentient beings. We will dislike that some of them perceive themselves in hell realms, hungry ghosts. We dislike that some perceive themselves as not Buddhas. But they have no mental afflictions about it. No misunderstanding about where all that suffering comes from. All right. So these two factors that are at play that through which we perpetuate these mental afflictions is a misunderstanding that we believe a wrong deed can bring a pleasant result. And it's like, wait, no. We don't believe a wrong deed can bring a pleasant result. But we do believe a deed can bring an unpleasant result, and we misunderstand what kind of deed does that. So we're not recognizing a deed as a wrong deed. And that's what makes it be a deed that will bring an unpleasant result. So it's phrased a little differently. A wrong deed cannot bring a pleasant result. It's something we need to understand clearly. And then the second factor is that understanding that the deed we do in this moment won't ripen its results till later. Which means the deed we do in this moment and the result we get in the next moment are not cause and effect. And that's so hard, because it sure seems like it is. I put my hand on the doorknob, I turn it, I pull, and the door opens. It sure seems like that's cause and effect. Geshe gave an example of the wrong deed, pleasant result, not pleasant result. Apparently years ago, a group of them came across an internet available computer for sale, like a really expensive computer for $1,000. And they go, wow, what a good deal, let's buy it. It arrived and it had its serial number scratched off the back. You know, and they recognize, oh my gosh, this is a stolen computer. And, you know, the tendency is, all right, you know, nobody will know. And then understanding karma and emptiness, it's like, no, we can't keep a stolen computer, even though we paid the $1,000 for it, right? We have the good karma ripening to get an expensive computer for only $1,000. And we have the bad karma ripening of that computer's a stolen computer. So what do we do? Like, what would we do? If we keep the stolen computer, we're contributing to the sale of stolen goods. We can't keep it. Now, you can't very well send it back, right? Get your money back. Maybe you could try. What they did was they called the computer company and told them, this is what happened. The computer company said, open up the back of the computer, there's a serial number there. And sure enough, that one was still intact. And so the computer company said, give us that serial number and give us who you bought it from, and we'll handle it. I don't know whether they got to keep the computer or not. The point was, in their minds, they recognized there was this fight going on, right? Oh, nobody will know. Yeah, to get a computer for so little money, that's a result of goodness that we've done. We should be able to keep it, right? And rejoice. But to keep a stolen computer plants the seeds for not being able to get a computer in the future or something similar, right? Let's use computer for computer just for the example. Not being able to get a computer in the future when you need one. Even if you can get it, you're going to have to share it with others and you're going to have trouble getting on it when you want to, right? The karmic consequences from stealing show up in these multiple ways. So they knew they couldn't keep that computer without doing something to try to set the situation straight. He uses this example, right, for this, how to recognizing karmic consequences of something that we've done or are going to do in order to help ourselves choose whether to do it or not, right? How to react to what's already ripened And how did then respond to that situation? So again, it's not a mental affliction to like and want reaching nirvana and Buddhahood. If we're willing to do something unkind to get there, we're not going to get there, first of all. And then we are misunderstanding it and our liking or wanting it is perpetuating not getting it. It's not wrong to enjoy a good dinner, unless we do it without having some fleeting remembrance. This is coming from my past kindness, and so I want to share it. Well, I'm all by myself, right? Offer it, right? If you're not all by yourself, the other person's eating too, yay, right? I am sharing it. Okay, duchak, ignorant liking. Second one, gongtro. Gongtro means hatred, anger, aversion. Again, did you have hatred today? I hope you'll all go, no. But did we have ignorantly disliking things? And come on, if we're honest, right? It was too hot. I was too tired, right? My cough got going. It was annoying people. All kinds of ignorant disliking happening. Again, it requires the misunderstanding of the object's nature. Is the unpleasantness in it and where it came from. And so to be willing to do some kind of non-virtue to avoid it or get rid of it or stop it. And we think, no, we don't do that, right? Unpleasant situations, I let them pass by. And then finally they do go away until they're a certain kind of unpleasantness, right? Or a certain level of unpleasantness. And when I hit my bar, right, in the unpleasantness, up comes the blaming the other for my unpleasantness. And then hot on the heels of blaming the other is that, right? Some action of speech, mind, body that I think is the thing that will shut them off. Right? Our classic one, there's the yelling boss. We can take it until finally they say that one piece. It's like, no, they can't get away with that. And blah, out comes whatever our reaction has been in the past that seemed to work. How dare you say that to me? I will sue you. And then they go, or, you blah, 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 blah. And they go, sometimes, but not all the time. So we know, of course, that it doesn't work really. And yet still, like Geshe-la's example of the kids jumping on the bed when you're in a hurry, right? That's a good one. Like, I don't have kids, but I can imagine being the mom. You kids, how many times have I told you, right? It would go like that. And it's this moment of anger that's so instant because you think it's going to be what will get the kids' attention. And most of the time it does. But what did it do? Who was there watching, says Geshe Michael. I was. That means somebody sometime in the future is going to turn around and go, what were you thinking, right? Yelling boss. So it's not even so much the reaction in the face of the yelling in the moment in which we are recreating the situation where this kongtro is going to arise. It's other situations where the kongtro arises and we let ourselves react in our usual way. Now, if our usual way is, not some way that when somebody else does it to us, it will be unpleasant, then our reaction to our control is okay, right? It's a reaction we want. Maybe we've learned how, in the face of the kids jumping up and down and we're like frustrated they're going to make us late, that we've managed to, I don't know, say, kids, there's a dog out in the hallway. Don't you want to come see the dog? And whoosh, out they go. And you run with them, and then you're in the car and you're on your way, right? Like some skillful means. Yeah, it's a little white lie. But, right? So we've planted the seed for the little white lie, but we've broken the cycle of the anger for anger, yelling for anger, right? We're building this new pattern. And new patterns take some time. So boss will still yell at us, but we're going to stop yelling at the kids, right? In order to get off this cycle of the control perpetuating control. But even at little pieces, those very subtle dislikes. I don't know, I can't think of one right now. Where we don't get this big flash of anger, but just this, they always do that to me, right? That leaves me upset. They always hurt my feelings like that. And then makes us a little bit more willing to be a little bit less kind to that person because they hurt my feelings, so they kind of deserve to get their feelings hurt back. And we're willing to say something a little less kind. That's control also, right? Much more subtle. And, for some of us, more common than the great big ones, because the great big ones don't happen so much. It still has these two components: not understanding where it's coming from and not understanding that what I do next is not, in fact, going to impact the situation. It's going to create a future situation. So hard. Ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, they seem like they're opposites, but they're kind of, going together in this constant swing. And like my example, I'll fib a little bit to the kids to get them to help me out instead of yell at them. I've still perpetuated some negative karma, but a different negative karma than before. It's like our seeds for goodness are still a bit stained, so our good results wear out, or they're not quite as good as we'd like them. And the same for the negative seeds, they wear out and they're not as bad as they could be. Like our karmas ripen as these dirty good karmas and dirty bad karmas, obviously, but meaning not completely pure. Always some badness in the good and some goodness in the bad, which is helpful to be able to look at things that way. It's like, well, here comes another headache. Now I realize I'm burning off some, past not keeping my vows. Yay, right? Oh dear, I lost my job. That's terrible. But now I'm available for something new and different. That's good. That kind of thing, right? All right, let's take a break. We'll go to Nagya. Okay, I'm back. Are we back? Where's our usual picture people? All right, next one is Nagyal. Nagyal, here it is. Nagyal means me king. Literally, me king. It's the word for pride. And when we get to Diamond Way, Nagyal means divine pride, which means me angel. Like with the same kind of power, conviction. But our me angel, divine pride, will not be divine pride until we have overrode this Nagyal me king. Right? You can't have both. And we can fool ourselves so easily. Oh, I'm just going to transform, right? This self-confidence that's such a good thing into my being the angel. And then if we haven't worked well with all of our mental afflictions, our angel will justify doing nasty things, right? Because I'm the angel. I know what they need. It's like, yeah, right. Until you get it back again. So Nagyal, pride. It has many variations. We can have pride in qualities we don't actually have. And we can have pride in qualities that we actually do see ourselves as having. And maybe even justify them being in me, from me, because a lot of other people seem to see those qualities in me. What makes pride a non-virtue is when, because of it, we have some gross or subtle sense of being better than others. And maybe we don't like really ever act all, stuffed up and prideful. Like we keep it stuffed inside, but that, we recognize that our perspective is this perspective of a little bit condescending, a little bit arrogant, a little bit expecting of how their behavior will be towards us. Pride is a really big thing, but it can be really, really subtle as well. That sense of being better propels our treating others badly in some way, right? Maybe very subtly, maybe very obviously, but ways in which they feel put down. Now, them feeling put down by what I do is coming from them, if I may not even be aware of it. If I'm experiencing being put down by others, being condescended upon, right, then I know I have behaved arrogantly. I have had pride in the past. And then I would want to look more carefully at my sense of comparison, self-comparison. And it's like self-comparison we do all the time. And it's a huge mental affliction in and of itself to compare ourselves. But really, we identify ourselves based on relation with other. So I don't think it's really possible to go through even a wisdom life without some kind of understanding of how my me is defined based on what's not me. Like, I think we go through that in course 13, if not before. So the affliction part is the allowing that sense of self-confidence to influence our behavior towards others. Whereas accurately understood good qualities and self-confidence comes from how we've helped others in the past. Our very pride would compel us to help others, whether we see ourselves higher than them, equal to them, or lesser than them. It's coming up later in Master Shantideva. Pride is that state of mind, right? I am better than you in some way. And so I justify treating you a little lesser. It feels ugly for a bodhisattva. It feels ugly for anybody. And it's one of the main mental afflictions, so we must have it. We must be doing it on some subtle way, if not obvious way. The ignorance has to be a component. We think those qualities that we have, whether we have them or not, right, are mine, in me, from me. Wow, because I don't know, I worked hard, I built them, I grew them, or maybe I was just born with them, but we identify as having them in us. Technically, they are in us because they're in our karmic seeds, but that's not what we mean when we say in us. When we understand to see myself with these good qualities is a result of past helping others have good qualities, then our pride is not ignorant pride. And it will feel very different because we won't really have that sense of arrogance over other people, right? They will be the source of our perpetuating our good qualities. So our pride would say, wow, thank you. We'd be grateful for everybody. All right. The scripture reminds us that just to be able to think clearly, right, to have these clear intellects, comes as a result of our past kindness. It's a result of morality. It's not our genetics, right? It's not our working hard in school. It's our past morality, making it such that we can think clearly. And so the very cause of future stupidity and mental dullness and negative qualities that go with that is being disrespectful to others, right? Being arrogant towards others. So they say, focus on the impermanence of our good qualities instead. Because when we recognize, wow, I could lose these good qualities. In fact, I'm losing them as I experience them because they're getting burnt off, right? So, egad, right? The more I think, the more I'm using up my ability to think, right? The result isn't stop thinking. The result is to help somebody else think, right? Clearly. All right, pride. We'll talk more about pride in future Master Shantideva classes. The next one is marikpa. Marikpa does mean ignorance, but it's not talking about the ignorance that is the misunderstanding of where things come from. Here, the mental affliction, ignorance, means not knowing the laws of karma and not believing in past and future lifetimes. Like wrong view, but we're going to see wrong view in a different way. So marikpa is just not knowing the process of existence, which is different than believing things have natures in them. But here it's an active not knowing. We'll get to that later. Marikpa, not knowing. The next one is tetsom. It means doubt. Geshe-la calls it lazy doubt. And as we've learned before, we are supposed to be skeptical about any teaching we receive, and we're supposed to check it by cutting it, burning it, rubbing it against the touchstone of our own experiences, which that in itself is a long story. No matter who is teaching it, we should have this healthy skepticism. However, we should then act on that skepticism by checking it out. And if we don't check it out, we are succumbing to this lazy doubt, because it means if we hear a teaching and automatically we believe it, we have the belief based on past seeds. And if we don't go and bother to plant the seeds of figuring out whether or not that's actually true, then every time we bring up or meet that belief again, we'll be burning it off. Right? We want to replant it. To do this healthy analysis to come to conclusion helps us replant the seeds that will help take us to the wisdom, which is the ultimate proof of all of it, of course. So they say to not bother to check out those teachings, especially the ones where we think, I don't know, I really can't buy that one. And to just set it on the shelf forever and never come back to it. That's a sign that we are not going to the trouble to prove it to ourselves. They say probably because there's something inside us that's saying, if I prove that to me, I'm going to have to change my behavior in a certain way, and I really don't want to do it. Right? That's the lazy doubt part. I don't really want to understand this that well. That means I can't yell back, right? That I can't blame the so-and-so for that. Yeah. And so we don't ever do the work. Lazy doubt. Tawa is the last of the main mental afflictions. Tawa means view, as in worldview. And here it implies a wrong worldview because it's a mental affliction. Tawa, it's down here. And there are 5 different versions of Tawa that become part of the main mental afflictions. There are many versions of Tawa, of course, but these particular 5 are how our mind is influenced that contributes to all the rest of those mental afflictions, especially this first one, jikta, that we'll come to very quickly. If we didn't have wrong view, oh, look, we wouldn't have the others. We wouldn't have the other mental afflictions. All right, so the first one is jikta. Jikta means destroy, view. Ta means view, edge. Jik means destroy. They call it perishable view. And it means a view which focuses upon things which will eventually be destroyed. So it's like our view of samsara, our view of our world, our view of our life. Because sooner or later, we're going to die and it's all going to be gone. But more importantly, jikta is called jikta because it's the view that itself will eventually be destroyed. So it's the view of our world that because of it, everything will come to an end. Not meaning all existent comes to an end, but meaning our us. And that it is the view that will be destroyed in the process of our path to Buddhahood, Jikta, right? The path that will be destroyed. What's gonna get destroyed? The me, Sarani, and the mind. Sarani's mind, body, possessions, job, reputation, shoes, right? Everything about Sarani and Sarani's experience will disappear. The jikta is the component that all of that have their identities and qualities in them. It's self-existent. The jikta is the belief that Sarani and mind, Sarani's things and experiences are self-existent. But by self-existent, we mean, of course, that they exist in some way independent of the mind that perceives itself as Sarani's me and mine is projecting itself, experiencing itself as me and mine, right? It gets so convoluted trying to say it. To believe in a me and mine as not projections. But that's awkward. To believe in a me and mine that exists independent of my past experiences, that's getting a little bit closer maybe. To believe in a me and mine that exists independent of any other factor, that leaves room for all kinds of misunderstanding, right? We need to find our own way to describe it to ourselves where our mind goes click, like I got it, versus what? What do you mean by that? The way me and mine does exist, which is not jikta, not wrong view, not perishable view, is that they do exist dependent upon my past behavior, which means future me and mine will exist dependent upon my current behavior. And they don't exist independent of that explanation. This is the wrong view, that if we didn't have it, we would have no mental affliction. Because if our immediate feeling and response to any given experience is, oh, right, my seeds, my projection, not even in words, but that's our perception of it, is this, right? Our immediate reaction would be results of past, create future, right? No need for the upset, no need for the clinging, no need for any of these other mental afflictions, because our impulse would be share the pleasant, burn off the unpleasant, plant pleasant. And really, it's as simple as that. Share the pleasant, burn off the unpleasant, plant pleasant, right? In both cases. And when our automatic reaction to life is that, no mental afflictions, nirvana. Not omniscient yet, but so much closer than we were before. Because of me and mine have their own existence, then what I do towards them has its own existence, and it works to get them or to avoid them. So I act in the moment to get what I want or to avoid what I don't want. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it works, it perpetuates my wrong view. And when it doesn't work, I get mad. So it still perpetuates my wrong view because I'm blaming the wrong thing for both the result and the cause, like the result and the reaction. I'm blaming wrongly. The development of the wisdom that destroys the jikta requires morality, right? Following our avoiding 10 non-virtues, cultivating the 10 virtues, taking vows to do them in ways that we can actually keep the 5 lifetime vows, and then committing ourselves more even to the Bodhisattva vows, which the 18 are about avoiding stuff. The secondary vows are mostly avoiding stuff, but also doing some stuff. The wisdom needed to be successful at that comes from practicing the very morality that those practices teach. That didn't make sense, that sentence. We destroy our wrong view by choosing to live morally, not by getting smarter, not by, I don't know, how else would we get rid of wrong view? Yeah, not by going and taking another class, but by living carefully, kindly to grow the goodness so that anything we do to grow this wisdom can actually have a positive result. Because we could take class after class and not behave morally and not learn anything from class. Or we could take class after class and learn a lot and not behave morally, and it'll look like our immorality is giving us a good result, but in the end, right, we lose it and keep the not morality seeds for later. Or the other combination, we can live morally and never study and gain wisdom. Right? There's that story of the guy who he was just so dumb he couldn't even learn to put out the water bowls. So the Buddha gave him a broom and just said, sweep the temple. That's your job. Sweep the temple in order to reach Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And the guy did, and apparently he did. Like that's all he had to do was sweep the temple with bodhicitta. Yay, wouldn't that be nice? So, right, it's not what we do in the moment. Don't quit your ACIs because I said that. But keep your vows, right? And study ACI so that we can actually learn something from the ACI. All right. Keeping morality increases our ability to concentrate, think clearly, meditate more deeply, see emptiness directly. I am preaching to the choir, aren't I? So they say jikta, this perishable view, and knowledge, meaning the higher knowledge, meaning that knowledge of how our behavior creates goodness and how our kindness behavior creates goodness and our unkindness behavior creates unpleasant, how that applies to our wisdom as well. When we have that knowledge in our mind, we cannot have wrong view. We can't blame the yelling boss for the unpleasantness that I'm experiencing and blame my own seeds for past yelling. Those are opposite You can toggle back and forth, but you can't have them both in the same mind at the same time. So the more the knowledge wins out from the wrong view, the jikta, the less jikta we have. Yeah, we're not perpetuating it by holding the knowledge in mind, right? Even if we're just using mental words, but we don't exactly know what it means, it's enough to chip away at our destructible view. The wrong view that will be destroyed by seeing emptiness directly and going on to override all our mental afflictions. All right. Next one is tarta. Tarta means extreme view. And Geshe says it's often misexplained as holding that things either exist in the way they seem, and if they don't exist like that, they don't exist at all, right? They are the two extremes. But here the extreme view is explained by being the implication of the way ordinary beings think things exist. So it doesn't sound so different in the end of the two extremes. But let me just read it to you. He says, this tarta really means the implication of the way ordinary beings think things exist. If you look at me as self-existent, that means that I exist independent of any other factor, in particular, independent of your mental projection of me. And if that is true, then I cannot change, because change involves being influenced by something else, right? Or it involves having influenced something else. So if it were true that I exist independent of your mental projection of me, then that means I would have to be an unchanging thing, which means everybody would have to experience me exactly the same, always. So then, if you perceive me changing, I'm changing, then that means I cannot exist in the way that you think I do. So I must not exist at all, right? It's coming to that wrong conclusion. But you see, this explanation is a little different than just saying, oh, things exist the way they look, and if they don't exist like that, then they don't exist at all. It's the explanation of why that pendulum swings in that way. Okay? And that belief is this tarta, wrong view, because it's a wrong conclusion. The accurate conclusion is, well, so see, she has to be coming from my mind because she's changing. Instead of, whoa, she can't exist at all because she's changing. Yeah. Okay. Third one, lokta, wrong view. All of these are wrong view, but lokta specifically means actively not believing in past and future lives and karmic consequences. We've heard that in wrong view of the 10 non-virtues. It means here that we must have known something or believed in some way about a mind stream going on and how deeds affect us in we do reap what we sow, for instance, and then somehow coming to a clear conclusion to reject that. No, there's no such thing as past and future lives for whatever reason we come up with. And no, karmic consequences can't be true because of da da da. Right? We could see it happen. It's like, no, it's not my karma that, that drunk driver hit my car because I never drink. I never drive uncarefully. I've never had an accident, right? It can't be caused by my karma because I never planted the seeds. Do you see that view implies that I don't believe that there could have been past lifetimes that I don't even remember in which I planted that seed, and that I still insist on blaming some other guy for some result I got, which means I don't believe that I have to have seeds in order to experience a result, right? The third flower, the third ripening, the third law of karma, not the third flower, but the third law of karma. You can't have a result if you don't have the seed. But we believe we do. And then to really like hold to that strongly is this lokta, wrong view. And we can see why it's going to lead to all the other mental afflictions, because some of these mental afflictions, it does take lifetimes for us to see the results. So then the fourth one, Dawa Zhengzhen. Tawa is the worldview. Shenzhen means to hold as highest, the best. So it's this worldview that believes my worldview is the highest, it's the best. The way I believe things exist is the one that's right, is what this is trying to say. So however it is that we believe that the world exists or was created and exists, whatever explanation that we believe explains why we experience things the way we do. If we believe that that belief, right, is correct, accurate, it answers everything, then we believe it's superior, which means we're not going to question it, right? Which means we're going to continue to live according to it, like regardless of what happens to us. Right? So when we think our worldview is the best worldview, we're stuck with a worldview that doesn't work. But it's like, well, what if our worldview that we think is the best is ours? Karma and emptiness. I don't know. There's a wrong view about holding our view as the best, because it implies it's got something in it from it that is right, more right than everybody else, which means not a result of our own past kindness. So it's slippery, this one, to not apply our own, well, our view is the highest, everybody else is wrong, right? We're doing this one when we do that. Then number 5, Soltram Dang So Shukchenzam Ki Tawa. The worldview that believes morality and asceticism is the best. And it's like, wait, we've been talking about morality as the most important worldview. The source of happiness is our Sultram. And here's a wrong view about it. What this is referring to is in the olden days, there were spiritual paths that taught, stand on one foot for 10 years and you'll get enlightened. Like hang yourself from one leg from a tree for 5 years and you'll get enlightened. Beat yourself with a whatever to purify yourself. Asceticisms, right? Intentionally make yourself miserable to burn off your negativities. They called that morality. And to believe that that's the highest morality, asceticism is the highest morality, and that we could gain our enlightenment by hurting ourselves, our body or our mind, is a big wrong view. You know, our tradition says do not need to hurt yourself to move along the path. Right? Samsara will deal with ripening your negative deeds. You don't have to add to it. In fact, when you try to add to it, you're just planting seeds of negativity. Yeah, you're hurting somebody. No, it's just myself. I don't make karma towards myself. You bet you do, right? You make karma towards your body when you hurt it. And later on, we actually get a vow to not harm our body and mind. Because of this wrong view. And then it gets more and more subtle. You know, how much hurting my body and mind? You know, if I only get 4 hours of sleep one day, is that hurting my body and mind? Is that this wrong view? Like, technically it is. Not that there will never be a time that circumstances are such that 4 hours is all you get, but understanding that we are not to intentionally choose these moralities and asceticisms that are harmful, painful. No need to do so. Wrong view. Our bodies, our minds are our vehicles to reach enlightenment. We must care for it properly. Doing proper morality, proper asceticism is a powerful, correct view. Then proper asceticism is refraining from unkindness to get what we want and to avoid what we don't want, right? Morality and asceticism. It's probably harder to not get angry in a situation where, right, it would usually be triggered than it is to stand on one leg for 5 years. Technically, right? Keeping our vows is probably harder than these other asceticisms. Okay, so Master Shantideva goes on to say, these mental afflictions, the first 6, the 6th of which have these 5, they are the scourge of all sentient beings. They are the only real enemy. Not terrorists, not corruption in your government, not communism, not fascism, not illegal aliens, not climate change. These mental afflictions. When we recognize we have these mortal enemies, and we recognize they are the cause of our sufferings, little ones and big ones, then any time we come across a thought that disturbs our peace of mind, we would want to go after it. As soon as possible, recognize it, act differently. Like, recognize it, negativity, past selfishness ripening, not react to it. Do the opposite. Right? Bump on a log or do the opposite as best we can. Positive ripening. Wow, I was kind. Share it to perpetuate it. Right? Next moment, same thing. Next moment, same thing. The mental afflictions are the enemies that ruin our peace of mind. All suffering is caused by them, says Master Shantideva. All stress, all bad habits, any nasty thing comes from past mental afflictions and perpetuates new mental afflictions. So they are ruining us moment by moment, and have ruined us since forever, and will continue to do so until we destroy them. He says conventional enemies will eventually die. You don't have to fight with them, just wait long enough. But our mental afflictions perpetuate themselves through our behavior. So don't let them have an inch. Don't let them have a second. He goes on to say, you know, when a warrior gets a flesh wound in battle, they get more fierce. You know, some people, they get a little, you know, cut on their finger and they go to pieces. But a warrior, whoa, right? I'm after you, you mental affliction enemy, because you hurt me. Yeah. Bodhisattva warrior goes after those mental afflictions with that same kind of power and force. He says these mental afflictions have been in our minds all along. The ignorance has been forcing them. And it takes time to have a mental affliction. So they waste our time. And when we destroy them, we will have much more time. We will have greater creativity because of the mind space we have that used to be full of them. And it takes effort to do battle with our mental afflictions. And that's what our book is meant to do. Right? Stop every 2 hours. Think back. Check. Battle. Meet mental afflictions. See where it's going. Not with, oh my gosh, there I did it again, I'm so bad. Not that. Just healthy noting. Doggone it, right? I let my blame factor go on all that time. Make a note, even if all you do is put plus, negative, to do, smile, right? You don't have to write books. The point of stopping and checking is just to think it through and make a plan. Okay, next 2 hours, next 2 seconds. I'm going to think, ooh, coming from me, coming from me, coming from me. And then check again 2 hours later. All right. How do we fight them? Here's his strategy. Number 1, identify them. Learn to recognize that feeling in response to that situation and be able to give it a name, recognize it. And actually, we may like have the reaction to the yelling boss and at first say, oh, this is anger. I said it before. But then as we work with it, we realize, no, like I'm feeling offended, which is different than anger. Anger comes from the feeling offended. But when we recognize the feeling offended, we can look in our other behavior and see, where is it that I might be offending people? Right? We're not yelling at them, right? We're not doing all that stuff that the other one does that makes me feel offended. But if we're finding that we are in fact offending other people by, I don't know, stepping in front of them, or I don't know, the ways that we offend, and we recognize, oh my gosh, right? I am perpetuating that situation. We do the opposite. And son of a gun, that anger in response to the old situation starts to fade away because we worked on what was underneath it. So that takes recognition. Superficial level, then go underneath that if we need to keep identifying what is it that I'm feeling in reaction to this. You can't do it in the moment of the brouhaha. afterwards and we think back, how we wanted to respond back gives us a clue, but it's only part of the habit. How do we feel after we respond back? Maybe it's like, yeah, I yelled back at the boss. Now I feel proud of myself. Eeks, maybe that's a clue that how I was feeling when the boss yelled at me was disrespected and lower, and right, my pride got hurt. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's pride, not anger at all. Where am I being prideful towards others and making them feel like that? See, identity of the feeling with the match of the mental affliction. Then you go looking for it, right? This is a little harder. No, life's going to give me enough. I don't have to look for it. But meaning we need to be on the alert for it, as opposed to being 10 seconds later, oh my gosh, I just had that mental affliction. If we're on alert for it, when it pops up, oh, there it is. I'm on top of it. So be on alert. And then once it comes up, destroy it. Try to destroy it. No, right? Seed's ripening. I'm not going to react, even if it's only a couple of seconds that you don't react and then you can't hold it. Still, every instant we do something different is planting a new seed. Everything we do something more kind, different, we're planting a really powerful, important seed. All right. We destroy it with knowledge and the antidote, which to do that, we need to be really keen on the karmic consequences. Right? We learn the ones for the 10 non-virtues. Course 14 has more karmic consequences. We have the Karma of Love book that has all kinds of karmic consequences in it. We have the Buddha's Previous Lifetimes, one of Teacher Sugyin's books, right? Has all those karmic correlations. We have all kinds of resources that we can study. We could go to those as resources after the fact if we don't know them off the top of your head. But really, to understand the list that Jetsun Kappa gave us of the consequence of the 10 non-virtues, between that and Wheel of Knives, we really have what we need to then extrapolate all the rest. Will we get it absolutely precisely? No, not until we're omniscient. Will we understand well enough to change our behavior? Sure. Right? Because even if we don't get the new kind behavior exactly right, we're still planting new kind behavior that's going to benefit us and is going to help grow our wisdom, right? Grow our ability to understand how to choose what deed to do instead of body, speech, and mind. All right. Geshe-la says when we start working on this conscientiously, life will get weird for a while. Like we'll find ourselves in the middle of a sentence with somebody and we'll go, right? I'm not going to finish what I was just saying. And they'll go, what, right? What happened to you? And just refuse to go the rest of the way. Things will get weird. And as we understand with purification practice, things can come up that are not so pleasant faster than we would like. And again, if we can hold our wits about us that this is a good thing, we'll be able to get through that cycle, that phase, and it finally settles down. So of course, ultimately understanding emptiness is the only way to stop all these mental afflictions, these 10 and the 84,000 that come out of them. So working with our emptiness understanding is the key factor to our success. And then we go through another phase. And in that phase, we recognize other people's mental afflictions more clearly than we do our own. And we think, oh, as a bodhisattva, right? I'm meant to stop all mental afflictions in the world. So I will go after theirs, right? And I will point out to them what they are doing wrong that perpetuates their mental affliction. And how do you think that's going to go over? Right? It's a Dharma rumor to say a bodhisattva works on others' mental afflictions in order to end their own, right? A wise bodhisattva works on their own mental afflictions to end the ones they see in others. The other way can't work. Okay. We don't know what's in another's mind anyway. So if they seem to be having a mental affliction and they're carrying out negative deeds, somehow get in the way, somehow distract, somehow help so that they don't perpetuate their mental affliction and the apparent victim involved, if we can go that strongly, doesn't get perpetuated as well, but refuse to do your own unkindness to stop that pattern, because it can't work. It won't work. It can't work. Right? Only kindness can help stop mental afflictions that we see in the world, because they stop our own. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Janet.
That's why when you said that you were sorry that you were creating what I saw in the United States, I didn't say anything because I was creating you leaving and this other professor I know leaving and Doug getting a Canadian passport. I mean, this is clearly all coming from me. It's not just you. And I do enjoy a pretty nice life, and I do complain a lot about it.
We know what we need to do. So, I got 1 minute. In that teaching Geshe gave in his 3-year retreat, The Magic of Empty Teachers, in that he describes making these lists. Make a list. What I see now in my world that I like. And then the list that goes next to that is, how do I perpetuate those? Right? Just based on karmic correlations. Make the list. What do I see in my world I don't like? And karmic correlate how we must have made that. And karmic correlate the opposite. So you know what to cultivate. You know what to perpetuate. You know what to cultivate. Make another list. What I don't see in my world that I want to see. And make the behavior list of how to plant those. Okay. And now we've got our strategy. Anything unpleasant that comes up, great, purify, right? I have my choice of how to respond. Anything pleasant that comes up, great, I'll share it, I'll perpetuate more of that. And that's really all we need to do. So simple, so hard. All right. Right. Be your own Buddha. Right. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We learned a lot in this class. Okay, please come back to it again and again. That we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with us. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. All right. Stop recording. Thank you, my dears, for the opportunity.